Alright, so we want to continue from where we stopped. So this time around, our objective for today is going to be focused on natural join, cross join, group by, and having, the having statement. So we're going to be continuing from where we stopped in our last tutorial. Right, so the objectives we have the cross join, we have the natural join, we have the group by, we have the having. Alright, so we'll start with the cross join. So what does the cross join allow us to do? So the cross join is not part of the left right join, inner join, or the outer join. Cross join is a specific type of join. Of course, it allows us to combine two tables together, but it allows us to carry it out in a very distinguishable manner from the other joins we have looked at. So it allows us to be able to combine two tables together, whereby we form a Cartesian coordinate as a result from the combination of both tables. So now the cross join best works with tables that have a single column each. So it works best with tables that have a single column each. So it combines data of two tables together such that each data in the first table maps to exactly one data in the second table. So this is a type of join whereby each data in the first table matches to exactly one data in the second table. So what I mean by that is that we can have a table whereby we have A, B, and C in table 1, and in our table 2 we can have data whereby we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, to best explain what we mean, we can have A, B, and C mapping to 1 as the first entry. We can have A, B, and C matching to 2 as the second entry, and have A, B, and C mapping to 3 as the third entry, and then we can have A, B, and C mapping to 4 as the fourth entry. So that's what a Cartesian a cross join does for us. So we're going to be creating two tables that each have one column each. So we're not going to have a serial number for both tables, just only a single column for both tables together. So I'll just say create table cross 1. That's what I'll call it, cross 1. And you can give it table. So I'll just call it letter, whereby I have a char. So of course we know that this allows us to enter the table of a single value. And I can have create table cross 2, whereby we have this, and then can come down here and say number. Then we can use the int data type. Alright. So now we have our two tables. Now we can insert data into them. So I will just say insert into cross 1, then you select the column there in parentheses. So insert into table 1, you can have your values, then you can have your A, B, you can have C, and you can also insert into cross 2 as well, whereby you have number your 1, and have your 2, have your 3, and have your 4. So now this will form Cartesian coordinate. And you can also decide to select the result when you are done. So this will be the query. So select everything from cross 1, cross join, so cross join, then and I'll see cross 2. So now this would allow you to, so you just highlight everything from the insert up to the create table. So this would allow us to run everything together. So I told you that if you want SQL to treat your queries as different queries, you want to end your query with a semicolon. So you execute your query, this should give you the result. So now, just like I said, you can see we have A, B, and C mapping to 1, A, B, and C mapping to 2, A, B, and C mapping to 3, A, B, and C mapping to 4. So this simulates a Cartesian cross product. So that's how you can map values together. All right. So let's continue. So you want to go up to the first objective that we are done with. You want to asterisk it out. So the cross join, you've just seen how we can carry that out. So let's look at the natural join. So first, let's explain what it's all about. So now the natural join, this allows us to combine two tables together, whereby a column in the second table references a column in the first table that has a constraint. So I'm going to be explaining what a constraint is. So a constraint is a keyword or a statement. So keywords in SQL, I explained that when we started the course. I said keywords are those letters or those sentences or statements that are highlighted in purple. So they are keywords, they are statements, they are clauses, whichever name you want to call them. They are inbuilt functions that allow you to be able to write queries or to bring queries to life, just like the select, the create table that we have been looking at, the where, they are all keywords. So now a constraint is a keyword that restricts an operation on the column of a table. So that's what a constraint is. It's a keyword. It could be a function, a statement, or it's a keyword that restricts an operation on a table. So I said that the natural join allows us to combine two tables together, whereby a column in the second table refers to or points to a constrained table in the first, points to a constraint column in the first table, or points to a column in the first table that has a constraint. So natural join, this is a combination of two tables whereby a column in the second table points to a constraint column in the first table. So it might not really make sense yet until we write our query. So like I said constraint allows us to be able to restrict an operation in the table. So let us write them down so that we will not forget. So constraint, so restricts operations on the table. The next one, so now we have some types of constraints. So we have looked at unique. We haven't looked at it yet officially or used it in a statement or in a query, but we know that unique allows us to be able to extract data without repeating. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the primary key, what the primary key constraint does. So now the primary key constraint allows us to combine unique values in a column and not null values. So not null values, so these are values just as their name implies, not null. It means that each cell in a table must have a value. That's what not null means. So it means you cannot leave a column valueless. So if you give a column the constraint of not null, it beholds on you to actually insert values into that column. Alright, so I'm going to look at references. So I'm going to be looking at that. Just a second. Alright, so now in order for the column in the second table to refer or point to the column in the first table, the column that is going to be pointed to by the second table should have the primary key constraint. What this simply means is that the values that will be inserted into the column of that table are not going to be null values, and they will be unique, meaning that they are not to be repeated. Alright, so I'm going to create two tables. I'll say create table natural one. So this is going to be the first natural table. I'm using the natural join statement. You create a serial number. I'll just stick with small letters. So serial. Of course, this automatically generates values by itself. So now I'm going to have name. So what I would do now, there's a kicker here. For the column that will be referred to by a column in the second table, now the column in the second table must have all the values. That is the column in the second table making the reference. The column in the second table referring to the column in the first table must have all the values of the column it's referring to, and must not have a value different from the column it's referring to. So what that simply means is that if I create two tables and I use a column from the second table to refer to a column of the first table, the column that is carrying out the reference must have all the values of the column it is making reference to, and it mustn't have a value different from that same column. Alright, so it will make sense when we write code to make more sense. Alright, so you want to give this a primary key. So I said a primary key is a combination of a not null the not null constraint and a unique constraint. I'll give it course character varying 50 not null. Yes, I will create the second table. I'll call it natural 2. Now don't make the mistake. Now the column that will be referred to by the second table must not have the same name, because you get an error. So you will try to avoid that. Serial number, you can have I'll just call it data to avoid any errors. Now give it not no, obviously. Then I'll have subject character varying not no. Now we have a constraint called foreign key. So foreign key, we use the foreign key when we are trying to specify the column that is making the reference to a column in the first table. So we use the foreign key to specify the column in the second table that is making a reference to the column in the first table. So you just come here, you see foreign key data. So my data is a foreign key, that is this column here is a foreign key making reference to this column. So it's referring to it. So we're going to join them based on this. So references. Now you have to specify the table. So natural 1 name. So that's how you do it. So now we can run both of them together before we can now start inserting values. So mind you, this column here should have values, and this column making the reference, the data, should have all the values inside name. But even if it doesn't have all the values inside name, it must not have a different value from name. That's the law of natural join. So you create your table, then you can now start inserting data into them. You just say insert into natural 1. Okay, name. You have to remember the constraint that was placed on each column. Say Adam you also insert natural 2. You have data subject. So like I said, it's not a must have everything in the first table, but it must have the values it has rather must be in the first table. So that's just the law. Wow, Alex. Mathematics. Adam. Engineering. Alright, so you want to insert these values into my tables. Made an error here, the data But make sure you must type your column titles correctly.